What is going on, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of the Yards After the Catch podcast. I'm your host, Alex Young, and we got three people today. We got a full team. Decided to talk about some Week 3 action, so I'm going to introduce everyone to get everyone back on pace. If you don't know people, we got some new people today. We'll introduce that. But first, let's start off with Rob. Rob, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Like me and Desmond were talking about, watched the Pats play probably the worst football game of all time this past weekend. But other than that, everything's going great.
It's all right. It's all right, Rob. I saw my Giants home opener live, season ticket holder. We'll go into that route a little bit, so I feel your pain there. Desmond, welcome back again. How are you doing? How you
Good,
feeling?
good. Eagles fan here. Crazy week three. Did not think we'd pull that one out. I'm still don't know how we did, but happy we did, son. Happy to be back on the podcast. Been a couple weeks.
It has. We're excited to have you back. And yeah, that was an exciting finish. I actually took a nap during all the wild finishes, and I woke up my phone and the notifications. I was like,
Wow.
"What?" It's bad week to take a nap midway between those windows. But we got a new person joining us. He's been in our group for a little chatting. He's a gambler. He doesn't have a team, but we got Nico here. Nico, just give everyone a quick introduction about yourself. I know you don't have a team. There's a reason for that. So why don't you have a team, Nico?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I am the quote unquote gambler of the group. I don't have a team per se just because like I can't be biased. Every week it's different. Some weeks I like the Giants, some weeks I like the Cowboys. It just depends on how the spreads are looking, how the player props are going. But yeah, I'm excited for the podcast. Thanks for having me, and it's gonna be a great show.
We're excited to have you in our crew this week, Nico. And you had a pretty good week this week. So hopefully, when we get to our pickup segment, you'll guide the people the right way. But with that, we're going to go to the start of this episode and our first topic, which is the state of the 0 3s in the league. Obviously, it's week 3. And there's some teams that don't have wins, including my favorite team, the New York Football Giants. But looking around the landscape, the Jets are 0 3, the Dolphins are 0 3. Texans are shockingly 0-3. We'll talk about them in a second. The Titans are 0-3. This is just a mess around the league. The Saints are 0-3. We expected that. But first team I want to talk about in the state 0-3 department is my New York Football Giants because I was there on Sunday at the home opener, and I've been going to Giants games since I was 8 years old. I turned 30 this year, so I've been around Giants games for a long time. Um, the vibes in that arena were definitely different than I've had in previous years. I think a lot of people have tweeted that. Um, and in a game where we felt that it was winnable, there's still a lot of bad decision making that took place. And the fans responded by chanting "We want Dart" in the midway of the second quarter. Okay, everyone, it was loud. And not only that, there's a lot of Chiefs fans. So again, this is the other home opener again where the away team has invaded the stadium. But just as Giants fan, it's been stressful these last few years. I think everyone knows in this group. I don't get mad often. I don't yell when I'm in the stands. I'm not one of those fans. But they were testing my patience and at the home opener this week, and um, there's a lot of places to blame, but mainly it's the organization and John Mara. I think at this point, he's just not listening to what the fans want. This organization's a mess. Uh, there's just constant changes. And again, there's another change. Jackson Dart's there, who should have been there in the last game. I'm sorry, everyone. I was Jackson Dart. Get him in at halftime. I think a lot of people knew that for me in a game that I thought was winnable against the Chiefs. I wanted Dart because after Russell Wilson threw that pick, everyone was like, just please, God, let's just see something different here. Russell's cooked. I know he threw for 400 plus yards against the Cowboys, and that was great. Um, but to me, it's just been a very, very frustrating time as a Giants fan that this is now, I feel, probably the 10th year, 13th year, whatever the case might be, that my season is over in week 3. In week 3. So with that, I just wanted to go on a little mini rant. I'll go around so you guys can give your topics on the Giants and what you guys are thinking. But that was my little mini rant that has been a very frustrating time. We'll see what happens with Jackson Dart. But at this point, Dable and Shane, we all know as football fans are fighting for their jobs. They're playing their last hand here. And I feel like we're just going down a darker path. And like I said, the vibes in MetLife, even though that arena is not great, I call it the world's greatest air conditioner. The vibes were way off. There was fans that I know, like I said, I've seen tickets to my family. There have been fans that have been around me for years. I didn't see them at the home opener. I wasn't the only fan that saw that and recognized that. It's been a very hard time, and I think the fans are finally kind of turning around the organization. We've battled for so long, and everything just is the same. So I just wanted to go a little mini rant, and that's my state of my 0-3 team, the Giants. But I'll get you guys' quick topics before we're talking about another 0-3 team. So I'll go over to you, Rob. What were you thinking about the Giants? I know you're a Pats fan, but just seeing them again have another miserable season to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, I know you said your season's over, but you got to be at least a little bit excited about Dart, just to, I mean, you got at least just to see how he is, see if you might be drafting another quarterback next year or not, but
hope not.
I hope not as well. But how boring are the Chiefs, I guess, was my takeaway from that game. Like, they have no reason for that game to have been even close. And I mean, maybe it didn't feel that close just because I think we all expected the Chiefs to win.
Yeah.
But like, I'm watching that game, and the separation in talent between the Chiefs and Giants really wasn't what you would expect it from, like a Super Bowl contender, Super Bowl runner-up last year, and team that most people kind of knew from the beginning of the season wasn't going to have very high aspirations. So, yeah, obviously the Giants are more or less cooked. I mean, with Daboll as well, I don't think he's going to be there too much longer. I guess it'll depend how Dart does, but yeah, I honestly came away with a little less impressed by the Chiefs than anything else from that game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought the Chiefs were just going to use this as a make-right game, and the fact that it was 9-6 at halftime, I was like, okay, this is a winnable game. Maybe the Giants take advantage, make the quarterback change, do some sort of adjustment. They did not do that, and I completely agree with you, Rob. That I thought the Chiefs just looked flat until it mattered most, and again, that late stretch down the fourth quarter where they proved they're a good team. But again, they look a little bit rocky right now. And I think people are like, oh, whatever. They're getting things right. They have a lot of injuries and stuff. But just the fact that they didn't blow the roof off that Giants team in week 3 in a make-right game was kind of surprising. So I agree with you there. But Nico, real quick, what were your kind of thoughts seeing this Giants team starting 0-3? And then we'll go to Desmond.
Yeah. So with the Giants, I honestly thought back after week 2 when Russell Wilson threw for 453, I think it was.
Yeah, it was like
in that game. 453 in that game versus the Cowboys. I really thought, especially after the Burrow injury, that the Giants should have maybe pursued a possible dealing him option. I really felt like that you knew Dart was going to start eventually. I don't know if anyone thought this early, but I think by week 7, week 8, everyone figured Dart would eventually be that guy. So I don't know if they had those conversations, but I really think, obviously, going into the year, I know you're 0-3, but you don't really have high expectations, to be honest with you. Like, you can be excited about Neighbors, can be excited about Scadaboo and the team itself, but I really think it's still another rebuild year for the New York Giants. But Dart was the step, in my opinion. I was very high on him coming out of college. I really think he is the guy. I think he's the best quarterback in the class, in my opinion, and I'm really excited to find out going forward. So, yeah, 0-3, rough start, but I really think this is about what can the Giants be in 2027, 2028, and that's what we're going to find out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, like I said, I know you guys are trying to, talk me off the ledge with the promise of, at least we'll get to see Jackson Dart, and that's true, and see what the future holds for this team. But yeah, it's just, like I said, it's been rough for me to see this happen again. But again, the number might be light at the end of the road with the team, but Jackson Dart does. Again, I agree with you, Nico. I loved him coming out of the draft. That's my second best quarterback in this draft class. So I'm excited to see him. But yeah, this just been rough. But Desmond, before I can move on and not talk my New York Football Giants, what are your kind of thoughts of their start of the year?
Positives for the Giants. Cam Scadaboo looks great. The line was actually protecting Wilson a lot better than we thought they were going to. So a lot of those errors that Wilson was making, they were firmly on him, which means that another quarterback could step in there and probably not have to worry about getting, blitzed as much as like Giants offensive lines in the past. You kind of were always worried about whether or not they're going to get killed back there. The defense doesn't look too bad. And it might be falling from the sky saying like, oh, the Giants season's been over after like week 3 for years and years and years now. But you can always say this, Alex, in the last 20 years, you've seen 2 Super Bowl victories, which is 2 more than our friend Brian has seen.
That is true. Brian, yeah, I try to dig some people about seeing Super Bowls. Desmond's seen one. Robert's seen a bunch. Nico, you're not a fan of any particular team, so I can't say you won one. But yeah, at least I've seen 2 more than Brian right now, especially him being a Cowboys fan. So we always have that. But yeah, I agree with you, Desmond. Defense has definitely looked good. Burns has looked great. I want to say this year, I think he can finish in the top 5 for Defensive Player of the Year. He's been that good. He was all over the place against the Chiefs game. And then Thibodeau has been the player this year as well, I think, on the defensive end that we were expecting for years, and he's kind of taking a step forward. I know it's a contract year, so it makes me a little nervous if Shane and them will move him, and I hope they don't. I want them to keep players around, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to see Thibodeau step up and take that next step. So, like I said, and I agree with the offensive line. At least in the past game, it's been solid. Run game, a lot to be desired on the offensive line right now. But Scadaboo, again, is just an angry runner. He is a fan favorite already, and he's only played a few games. So, with that, there's the state of the New York Football Giants, and I feel like I'll probably have another rant, hopefully in a good light, but probably not. Come midway of the season, we'll talk probably the Giants and where they are, but we'll see what happens with Jackson Dart. My dad, my sister, and my niece are going to be at that game. I was telling my dad the other day that I hope for my niece that she will see her beginning of her franchise quarterback like I got to see as a kid with Eli Manning. So hopefully with Dart, we'll see that come to fruition. But we'll get to see. So with that, let's talk about another 0-3 team that I think a lot of us are surprised about, and that's the Houston Texans. I don't think any of us in our preseason talks, in our group chats, in our first few episodes of the season had the Texans starting off 0-3, especially in the AFC South. Now, again, their offensive line was alarming and an issue going into the season, but we thought, okay, CJ Stroud take that next step forward. Same, Diego Collins come back, he'll bounce back, he'll be good. They'll have a good running attack, especially, I know jumping's out, but with Nick Chubb and the veterans there and some of the young talent they have over there, we all thought the Texans will just navigate the AFC South, and that has not been the case. And CJ Stroud has looked pretty bad. Pretty bad. Especially, everyone knows here, a lot of people know I was super high on him coming out of the draft. I loved him, obviously, his rookie year, and he proved me right when I was telling my friends he's the best quarterback in that draft class. He's going to look great. And he's just regressed year over year. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't trust the offensive line or whatever the case might be. But I want to kind of get your guys' thoughts on the Houston Texans. Can they turn this around? I know statistically, starting off 0-3, any team, any division, any conference, it's like statistically impossible to make the postseason at this point. But are there going to be drastic changes happening in the Houston Texans with this start? And Nico, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Houston Texans start to the year? And is there going to be a lot of changes taking place?
Yeah, very surprising, like you mentioned. Like you never anticipated Houston to come out. Obviously, I bet a lot of us thought they were going to win that division. We're pretty cutthroat, but I personally think they got to use Nico Collins more in like a CeeDee Lamb type of role. Like he has to be more involved. They obviously Nick Chubb isn't the Nick Chubb that we are used to from 4 or 5 years ago. Without Joe Mixon, you got to get those yards somewhere. And you hate to say it, but Nico Collins is really only that guy on that team. So I really think they have to do everything in their power, like jet sweeps to him, screen passes, quick slants, do everything to get him as many touches as possible. But yeah, this week they have a game coming up against the Titans, which is I think is a really good opportunity to prove something and win some and dominate hopefully. But they do have a tough stretch coming up. They got Baltimore at Seattle. Like they are not like out of the weeds by any means. And the thing about the Texans, in my opinion, is even we've seen it the past couple of years with CJ Stroud is it doesn't matter who they're playing, it's always a ball game, which is could be great for you and it can also be a bad thing for you. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do over the next 4 or 5 weeks, and hopefully they can turn it around. But these 4 or 5 weeks are everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. They have to definitely think right. And if they don't look good against the Titans, I don't even like that.
Over.
It's over. Like it really is.
It's bad.
It's gonna be bad. So hopefully they use that as a make right game. But again, like you said, they have that and then a tough stretch there. So we'll have to see if they can turn things around. But I don't know. It hasn't looked pretty. Desmond, what are your thoughts so far on the Houston Texans start to this season?
They lost by 5 in the first week, lost by 1 in the second week, lost by a touchdown in the third week. This defense is holding up, man. They're good up 14, 20, and 17. That's actually really, really good. I think any team in the league would be very happy with their defense giving that much up. I'm kind of throwing the shade at the GM here because they let go of Laramie Tunsil, their best offensive lineman, on a team that gave up like more sacks than I think anybody last year. And so, like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how you go through the whole offseason not trying to build the offensive lineup when it was obviously your biggest concern last year. They didn't build out the receiving core either. They drafted a guy in the third round, but he hasn't really looked that great so far. So I feel like they're not really giving CJ anything to work with. They knew Joe Mixon had an issue, but they brought in another injury-prone running back, Nick Chubb. So I'm like, what are we asking this guy to do here? You know, I mean, like, not everyone can be like, a Josh Allen Superman and be like throw into a bunch of regular name dudes no one's heard of before and still actually get production. So, I mean, I feel like he's kind of being set up for failure down there, and it kind of makes me question about like who's actually running that ship because defensively they're good, offensively they're kind of a joke.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you have to say, especially when it comes to the offensive line. And also, it's kind of, if you look at the Texans' history, it's kind of history repeating itself. Like,
Yeah.
they did they not learn from the David Carr experience of what happens when your quarterback gets absolutely destroyed for a whole season and more, and then you just that I don't know. There's a whole thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, I completely agree with you, Desmond. Like, this is solely on the GM, and again, if they don't look good against the Texans, I wouldn't be surprised to do something brash. That ownership's known to just make pretty quick decisions over there,
Yeah.
especially recently. But I agree, like their defense has kept them in games, and their offense is flat. But again, everyone knew, including us, they needed an offensive line, and they were like, "Oh, let's just trade our best guy." So it's absolute best. But Robert, real quick, what were your thoughts on the Houston Texans start to the year, and do you believe that they might be able to turn around and shock the world, if you will?
Maybe just because the AFC South is such like it's always such a toss up when it comes down to the end of the year where
But the Colts are
teams are like 1 or
3-0.
2 games apart. True, true. Danny Dimes. How much would you pay to have Danny Dimes right now? But anyway, I'll take it a step farther. Even yeah, I'll take it even a step farther. Their offense is wasting an elite defense.
Yep.
Their defense holding the Rams to 14 points, like Desmond was saying, like that. The Rams score points against everyone. McVay is an offensive genius when it doesn't matter who's back there, who's injured. So the fact that they can't even score more than 20 points, like it's tough. It's really tough because I'm a CJ Stroud fan. Like I thought the kid was really good. I mean, he's kind of only regressed since his rookie year, which is not really a good sign because you're obviously looking for those incremental step ups from first to second to third year. And obviously, like he did get hurt last year, so that could play into it a little bit. But yeah, I think they might have a chance, but honestly, I think they might just be cooked. So.
Yeah. One quick thing here. I want to say, like, the Texans have been to the divisional round of the playoffs the first 2 years of CJ Stroud's like career. And Tank Dell like blew out his knee last year, and
Yeah, that's
Stephon
true.
Diggs blew out his knee last year. And I'm just like, this guy he just doesn't have any help down there. So I mean, like, I think you actually put some talent around him. I mean, I think that they could bounce back quickly, but we'll see if they actually will be aggressive and make some trades before the trade deadline, which I doubt they will.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they'd be sellers, yeah, more than buyers. Robert,
I don't think it's a CJ. I don't think it's a CJ Stroud problem. That's kind of I agree with that. It's not a CJ Stroud problem. It's just the weapons. Obviously, Nico's good, but that offensive line is basically Swiss cheese at this point. Where if you're not, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If you're not giving him a pocket to throw into, bad things are going to happen.
Yep.
Yep, completely agree. And then real quick, we could talk. I mean, I think we all expected the Dolphins to struggle, and they started off 0-3. I think we kind of felt the vibes were off there. Titans as well, young team. Another one though is the Jets, and I just want to quickly say something. I think Jets fans are always like, "Here we go again," but you could definitely see the culture change there, and the vibes are different. And they've been in close games, and it's just they've been on the unfortunate side of those losses. So I just want to tell the Jets fans, keep the faith. Don't lose your minds. I know they're down. They're starting quarterback right now, and I think they're still a quarterback away, even with Justin Fields there when he's healthy. But the fact that they're battling in games shows that the culture changed. Because usually in the past with the Jets, they lay down a little bit. But I want to quickly say that about the Jets. Any comments on the Jets or any of the other 0-3 starts before we kind of move on to the next topic?
I'm not going to comment on the Jets. I'm going to comment on the Saints. I know that we all knew this about the Saints, but my take on the Saints is I think this is the worst NFL team in history. You could say about the Owen. You could say these teams like the 0-16 teams. I'm telling you, but this Saint, I really think Spencer Rattler is just not an NFL. The team is terrible. I can't explain it. Like I just watching them play, like that game against Arizona week 1, I think it was. Yeah, they were in the game, but they weren't. Like there's no doubt in my mind that I don't think this team's gonna. They're not going to win more than 2 games. I think 2 games is the absolute max, but I really would not be surprised if they don't win again. And I really think it is going to be talked about come 5-6 weeks from now. Are we watching the worst NFL team in history? I really do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Quick
I
bet.
kind of like to think we'll mark it down. We'll see where it goes, and I pray the Giants beat the Saints because if they don't, my phone, my TV, my PS5, this whole office back here, as you guys see, everything might be destroyed if we don't beat the Saints. But with that, we're gonna go from the teams that haven't won a game to the teams that have won all of them, and we're just gonna talk about the teams that have impressed us the most, the teams that have started 0-3 that impressed us the most. Uh, I guess I'll start with one first. I'm going with the LA Chargers here. I was not expecting them, especially week one in Brazil, to beat down the Chiefs like they did. Obviously, the game was a little closer, but they were just from start to finish, wire to wire, just a better team. And they've continued that, and they're going to go play my new first football Giants this week and probably continue their dominance and start 4-0. I just think Herbert has looked a lot different than what we've seen in the past. He just his confidence there. Him and Harbaugh are connecting better. He has a trio of great receivers right now. Like Lad McConkey being kind of wide receiver 3 is crazy if you think about it, especially after his season last year. But Keenan Allen's having a bounce back year because he's back in the Chargers blue. He just feels more comfortable. It's awesome to see. It is a fun watch. And I know they lost Najee to the Achilles there, and that's unfortunate. But Omarion Hampton got drafted for a reason. He's going to be their bell cow. So, and the Chargers defense, I can't knock them. I mean, their defense has just been unreal. Probably a top 5. I think to me, a top 5 defense right now. They're looking really good. They're looking. No one's going to slow them, unless they do their weird Chargers thing where they go to MetLife and just fall back to earth and look weird, and all of us question what's going to happen. But I doubt that's going to happen right now, especially with with Harbaugh as their head coach. So I'll bounce it around to you guys. I know you guys have some other picks. Who was your most impressive team that is currently 3-0? Rob, I'll go and start with you with this one.
We're going to go down to Tampa Bay. I'm going to say the Buccaneers. Maybe a lot of it is how much I like Baker, and I feel like Baker is one of those QBs now where everyone likes him. You know, I haven't heard anyone that's been like, "Oh, I don't like Baker." I mean, obviously he's a cocky SOB, so maybe if you don't like him, it's for that. But
I used to not like him, but he kind of toned it down a little. Now I like him, so you're kind of on something there, Robert.
I feel it. I guess with the Bucs more than anything, it's you look at the weapons they have too. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Ibuka, who's just been bursting onto the scene as a rookie. Evans is going to get you 1,000 yards no matter what. And then you have Chris Godwin coming back maybe this week. But honestly, I would even just wait another week just to make sure he's 100% if they don't really need him right now. And that's a crazy thing to say when you don't really need Chris Godwin as one of your receivers, who, in my opinion, has always been an above average receiver. But really impressed. I mean, they could have folded after that weird blocked field goal against the Jets. I mean, stuff like that just kills the momentum in games. But I think it really speaks to how Baker's becoming one of those QBs where you're almost expecting him to make that drive and win the game. And it's happened a few times this year already and happened a bunch of times last year. So, yeah, I'm going to say the Bucs for my pick. I've been really liking what I'm seeing out of them this year.
Yeah, I love that pick. I agree with you with Baker in the fourth quarter. I think all of us, especially me, and when I talk to my dad too, I'm just like, whenever he gets the ball in the fourth quarter, whenever it's clutch time, that dude steps up. And it's crazy to see his transformation from, potential bust and future back to turning his career around in Tampa Bay and becoming probably, I don't know if it's a hot take, the best clutch quarterback in football right now. Like I said, I trust him in under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. Argue Baker Mayfield the ball every single time. But with that, Nico, who was your team to pick that started off 3-0 and impressed you the most?
Yeah, I agree with the both of you, but Alex, like you said, the Chargers. I also agree the Chargers are pretty dominant all around. But the one thing I do want to say is the Eagles, and the only reason why, Desmond, I'm gonna throw your team a bone. Everyone's saying they look sloppy, they look bad, and that first half was disgusting. I couldn't agree more. But there is no team in the past 2 years that can find a way to win more than that team. The way that they do the clock management, the way that they control the tempo, the way that they just put themselves to give themselves the best opportunity to win in every scenario, especially in the second half. I think Sirianni does a great job at it, is why I picked the Eagles. Obviously, they're getting all the hate in the world right now because they look bad, they look flat. But they're 3-0 and they're winning football games. They had arguably the best second half comeback versus the Rams team, who's arguably one of the best teams in the NFL right now. But outside of the Eagles, I couldn't agree more with you, Alex. The Harbaugh and Herbert combination right now is dangerous, and the league should be on notice. That Chargers team is scary, and I'm definitely would be nervous if I'm a Giants fan this Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely nervous, for sure. But yeah, I like your pick for everything. Again, a lot of people picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. Eagles came back and proved the world. Hey, we don't count us out just yet. But Desmond,
Yeah.
what team has impressed you the most? Are you going with your Eagles, or are you picking another team?
I think it'd be really easy to pick. No, I mean, we just did the Eagles. I'm not gonna do it again here. But I mean, I think it's really easy to pick the Colts because, but like, I think everyone's talking about the Colts. So I want to give shine to another team really quick. The 49ers. It makes no plausible sense. I mean, they lose Brock Purdy, bring in Mac Jones. We all left him for dead back in New England. We thought that his career was a bust. They
The guy
lose.
stinks. I don't care.
They lose Debo in the offseason. They lose Brandon Ayuk to an injury. They had another receiver go down. George Kittle goes down. You have McCaffrey still battling a calf injury. Like they lost like half their defense. I mean, like come on now, like they are stringing together a roster right now. I think Seattle's a great team. Went on the road, beat them, beat the Cardinals at the end by 1 point, other division team. So I think it's just a real gritty thing here from the 49ers. And if they start getting a little healthy towards the end of the year, I think they could be a little sneaky team going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I like the pick of 49ers. I know we're going to talk about it shortly. They lose Nick Bosa, but it just seems
Oh, I
like
forgot about
everyone
that. Yeah.
It just seems that
Yes,
everyone
that's
has
tough.
been picking up for everyone else, and it's been impressive to see, especially with Mac Jones as their quarterback. Was all of us, like I said, we left him out in New England, and he's backing up Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and then we're like, yeah, he's got it now. He's led the 49ers to a 3-0 start.
Yeah.
So with that, we just talked about injuries, so we're going to do an injury update because and talk about some of the series because week 3 had a bunch of injuries, and starting off I'll go through and then we can kind of talk about the one that alerts the teams that was hurt the most. But first off, like I said, we just talked about Nick Bosa, torn ACL, huge loss for this 49ers team, especially in the division starting off 3-0. Just such a great defensive presence on the field. So to lose him at this point, rough. Cowboys and CD Lamb, especially this week going against the Packers. He has a high ankle sprain. He might be out 2 to 4 weeks at the moment. And then I'm going to go again. Buccaneers. We talked about them. They lost Mike Evans to a hamstring injury. He might be out again 2 to 4 weeks. The Cardinals and James Conner. He's out for the year. The ankle injury.
That was
Just
ugly.
it was ugly. Just an unfortunate injury for him, especially with this Cardinals team that is kind of fighting for the NFC West, and he's just been such a leader there, and I think one of the most underrated running backs in the league during that time, these last few years. And again, that injury was brutal. So thoughts and prayers with him. I hope he has a speedy recovery. We talked about it briefly. Chargers running back Najee Harris torn Achilles out for the season. So again, a blow to the Chargers here in their hot start. And then my New York Football Giants, Tyron Tracy, shoulder injury, dislocated shoulder. He took a nasty hit on the sideline. I knew right away what happened. So he might be out a couple weeks with that. And then Lane Johnson left the Eagles game with a neck injury. I didn't see what the update is at the moment
We
for
don't have
him.
one yet, but
Yeah,
another Eagle went down. Nolan Smith is going to be out
yeah,
through our bye
yeah,
week.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Nolan Smith, former Georgia Bulldog legend, my favorite Georgia Bulldog linebacker ever as a Georgia fan. Yeah, I saw that injury report pop up. Unfortunate for the Eagles. Hopefully bounce back. But I just went through, like I said, a slew of injuries. But what is the one that you think is going to be the most detrimental to their team? And Desmond, I'll start with you here. Which one injury you think is going to have the biggest impact?
You know what? I'm gonna be a homer for a second. I actually think it's Nolan Smith.
Hmm.
We have been having a really hard time replacing all the different defensive linemen that we lost last year. Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, a couple other rotational guys left. We also had Brandon Graham retire. And while we got two like great defensive tackles in the middle with Davis and Carter, we don't really have great edge players right now. And this is a team that kind of has a weaker secondary. We got a safety who's a rookie. We have a corner and a Dory Jackson who's basically trash. So we kind of rely on getting pressure so that, we can only rush four. But I kind of wonder how that's going to go now. We have a tough schedule this year coming up, and we got a lot of really big games coming up over the next 5, 6, 7 weeks. So yeah, I'm just a little worried about our ability to actually pressure the passer because I feel like if we can't do that, our secondary is probably going to get exposed a little bit.
Yeah. Like I said, I love Noah Smith. Always loved him. Wanted the Giants to draft him when he was falling in that draft, and they didn't. And then I was like, of course, the Eagles continue to build the Georgia defense that won them 2
Sir.
national championships, and it's continuing. Nico, we went, like I said, through all the injuries that took place in Week 3. Which one do you believe is going to have the biggest impact on their team?
Yeah, it's the for me, it's the obvious one. It's the Bosa. It's just terrible. Like, he just single-handedly can win you a game. As a defensive player, there's only a select few people that can do that, and
Right.
you just got to feel for the 49ers. Like, over the past 5 years, it's always something. They have one of the highest winning percentages, and they just cannot stay healthy. Between McCaffrey, Purdy getting hurt a couple years ago in the playoffs, like everything just goes wrong for that team, and I feel bad for the organization because they have talent and they're winning games right now, but it's going to be tough without Bosa for the rest of the year on the defensive side.
Completely agree there. Yeah, just what he brings, he's kind of the heart and soul of that defense, and to lose him Week 3 in a division that's going to be pretty tough is brutal. But Rob, I'll go to you. Which one do you believe is going to have? Which injury do you believe is going to have the biggest impact?
It's tough to say just because I was going to say CeeDee Lamb, but looking at it, it's just he might play this week. He might, so it doesn't seem like it's going to be like that long of an injury. I don't think he should play this week just because a guy of that caliber, you always want to make sure they're 100% before really putting him back out there. Honestly, it's probably got to be Bosa. I mean, we were talking about the Niners before, where if Purdy, these injuries add up over time. Like, look at the Lions last year, where they were Super Bowl contenders the entire year, and then eventually they just ran out of players towards the end of the year because of all their injuries.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it's like it may not matter as much right now because they're still going to win games against lesser teams, but when you start getting into like the actual playoffs and games that matter, you're going to miss a guy like that, and whoever else is injured for them at that point as well. I mean, we all like Christian McCaffrey, I'm assuming, but who knows if that guy's going to make it to week 18, So, but yeah, I would probably say Bosa as well.
Yeah, completely agree with what you had to say. Yeah, just a brutal time for him to lose injury. I will just quickly go. For me, the one that I think, and I just felt the worst for is James Conner. I just think he brings such stability to that Cardinals offense. He protects Kyler Murray when that offense is struggling. He always would make the big play. He's just a tough runner. And the fact that he went down with that injury, which to me could just change your whole career. Like, we might not see James Conner, or if we do, it's not going to be the same player that we've seen before. So to me, it was hard to see him go down because I just love the type of player he is. He's not the guy that argues. He's worked so hard to get to be in the spotlight there in an offense and with the Arizona Cardinals. To see that ankle injury, it was tough to see. And I think it's just tough. I like Trey Benson as a runner, but I don't know. I just feel when you lose that type of guy who just brings such ability and leadership to your team, it just hurts. And I think for that team with the Cardinals, which a lot of people we had talked earlier, is they're kind of in that make or break season, and to lose him to that type of injury is brutal. So, like I said, thoughts and prayers to him because that injury was pretty bad. It's similar to the Nick Chubb injury from a few years ago, which was rough to see as well. So to me, I want to go with James Conner with that. But everyone, like I said, we talked injuries and all of us, we always think well wishes to everyone that got hurt, and we want them to go back healthy and continue to dominate this league because we love watching them play. So with that, we're going to go with Nico's specialty. We're going to talk with Stay in the Bet because this year has kind of been an interesting year, if you will, because we talked about the Texans and them underperforming. CJ Stroud and him underperforming. The Giants underperforming. A lot of teams around the league underperforming and how it kind of impacts both fantasy, but especially betting. So, Nico, I kind of want to go with you with your betting specialist. When you see kind of teams struggle or just players, how do you think that kind of affects the gambling aspect, if you will?
Yeah, so it varies. So like you want to never try to take the what the bet. What I'm trying to say is like you don't want to take history too much to account. Is what I should say. Like you got to have short weeks in the NFL. Like you can't really dwell on the past. Like for example, like a guy like Malik Neighbors last week getting one catch, I believe, and
one catch,
I don't know
4 yards.
I don't know what the full stat line is, but like you can't dwell on that in the past. And it's kind of tough to say for right now with the NFL being so week to week, the league. I guess what I'm trying to say is like you can't you can't sit there and base your bets on like, hey, the Giants are 0-3. I don't think they're going to cover this week, when there's a different mentality. Like, there's something that changes in a locker room after a loss that makes you the better team next week. Like, how many times in the NFL have we seen a team lose by 3 touchdowns and the next week they win by 21 plus? It happens so much. So I really think as a bettor, you can't look at the past weeks as much as people think you should, and you got to look at the future and how they match up against the current team at stake, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Especially me, I'm similar to you in the mindset to forget about things, especially when it comes to like player props and prop betting. Like I said, Malik, every wide receiver is going to have an off week 1 week. So like Malik's a perfect example, right? Like I'm not going to look at it and be like, oh, he's only get 2 catches next week. Like no, it's like you go back to where it started, short week, short mindset. I completely agree with you. It completely made sense. But Robert, I know, and Desmond, we go through, but I'll go with you, Robert. Kind of when you look at some of your teams, or if you're betting, or just looking at that, or fantasy purposes too, kind of when you look at players or teams underperforming, how does that kind of impact your decision making when it comes to anything fantasy or betting wise?
Well, I think the start of the year in the NFL is always the toughest, just because, like, a good example is that Browns Packers game. So apparently last week I saw a
I was
tweet
just
saying
about to
that,
talk about that.
yeah, that Vegas cleaned up on that game. I can tell you guys that much. Apparently, I saw a tweet that Vegas books had their best week of the year in some amount of time last week. So I would imagine there was a lot of Browns teasers, Packers like teasers, Packers in like money line parlays, probably all over the place. And I know that the Bengals were also getting a lot of heat, and obviously they just got absolutely smoked. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, I get to bet against Carson Wentz one more time. Sure, that sounds good." And we all saw how that went. That was crazy.
That was.
And then you look at like the Panthers Falcons, another game that just makes zero sense. Like the Falcons put up 0 points against the Panthers. Like I said 2 weeks ago Bryce Young should be driving an Uber.
You did.
And so it's just like for him to come out here. So for them to just like go 30-0 on the Falcons, I think kind of what Nico was saying was it's a different mentality when you have teams that are 0-2 and 0-3 and looking for that first win, compared to like when you're midway and like later into the season when your bad teams are like say 2-8, 3-7, whatever it is, compared to like not having that first win yet. You kind of got to look at those 0-3 teams as like, all right, they might be playing with like a lot more motivation against, say, maybe a 2-1 or 1-2 team than the following week, you know?
Totally agree there. And Desmond, we'll go with you to stay to bet. You know, I know it's early on in the year, but what are you kind of looking at when it comes to pick'em fantasy betting? You know, with some teams that are struggling or just some players struggling.
Right.
How do you look at things?
Yeah, we have a pick'em league that we do, and I am always advocating for people to take some upsets because they happen every single week. You just never really know like where they're going to come from. I picked the Browns last week. I was like one of 2 people out of like 36 people who picked the Browns. But like I thought that the Packers offense seemed a little soft. And I thought that the Browns defense is actually pretty good. Cleveland's a really hard place to play. There's a lot of intangibles that you can never really kind of like you can't like put them down on a stat sheet. You know, like how tough it is to play in Cleveland because those fans don't seem to ever care how bad that team is. They always show up and they're crazy loud no matter what. So I think there's a lot of like little things in there. Obviously, injuries play a factor into it. How bad did you lose your game before? Because like maybe that'll play into like, how you might bounce back this week. So there's always a bunch of like little things in there that I think you can kind of play on. And also division games are always wild cards. I feel like in those scenarios, you have to always be really careful because a lot of the traditional metrics get thrown out of the window when it comes to division games. I've seen teams that have no business beating another team, but it's a division game. Like these things happen all the time. So I think there's a lot more variables than people want to take into account when it comes to trying to pick 2 teams against each other.
Yeah, we agree. And when it comes to division games, it always messes me in betting or pick 'em, especially because every time it's always either the opposite or it's a close game that I'm not anticipating and I bet like the over. Divisional games are tough, and especially this season when early on there's been a ton of divisional matchups. It's been like me. It's been.
I think Joe Burrow's still only beaten the Browns 1 time in his career so far, or is it twice maybe? But like,
it's a low number. Yeah, it's just, again, Division matchups, always bet rules, always parlay ruiners. So with that, did a little bit of state of the bet. I breezed over something. We're going to talk a little bit about week 3 before we go into our week 4 pick'em and all that. So again, not a ton of interesting games from week 3, just a ton of wild finishes. So I just kind of wanted to briefly ask you guys, what was your game of the week, if you will, from week 3? Again, there's been some blowouts, some close games, but mainly that kind of late 1 o'clock window to the 4. Like there was just a ton of wild finishes this week, but the other games were just absolute snoozers. So, Robert, what was your kind of week 3 interesting game of this week?
Yeah, not a Sunday game per se, but the Monday night game, Lions Ravens. I mean, that was
100%.
phenomenal for some Monday night football. It's kind of the
Yeah.
easy pick here, just because of how good of a game it was. But I was really impressed with the Lions coming out of. I think I said 2 weeks ago that it wasn't time to panic for the Lions yet, just because they had so much turnover. Everyone was kind of freaking out about, oh, they have 2 new coordinators. They have such a solid core and such a good head coach to where they were always going to be fine. Now, I didn't expect them to win this week. I thought the Ravens were going to right the ship. You know, in Baltimore, it was going to be. I knew it was going to be a high scoring game. Bet the over, but regardless,
Yeah.
Good win. Good
But-
win.
yeah, and so that'll be my game. Always good to see like 2 high-powered offenses with 2 good QBs, like just duking it out against each other.
Yeah, I think it was a great pick. I think it was a fun watch. I think a lot of us were surprised to see the Lions come out and win. We knew they were a high-powered offense, but we thought maybe the Ravens defense would show up this week, and they're still absent. So that's kind of a little bit alarming for the Ravens fans out there. But again, I think that was just a fun watch to see them. And that Lions defense really, really impressed me. I haven't seen Lamar Jackson struggle like that, especially late in the game, in a long time, where you felt like he was going to do one of his crazy scramble runs, and then Aiden Hutchinson or someone was like, yeah, no, you're not doing that. So good pick for your game of the week. Nico, I'll go to you. What was your week 3 game of the week?
Game of the week, I completely agree with Robert. That Ravens-Lions game as a game of the week as a whole. But I will touch base on the witching hour itself. On that 1 o'clock window at the end going into 4 was just awesome. Like there's a couple times a year where you get a window like that, and it was just fantastic. But my favorite takeaway / funny takeaway is how New York Jets was that ending. They blocked the kick, returned it for a touchdown. Coach dancing on the sidelines are going nuts. Baker Mayfield does what he does. He loses the game. It's the definition of New York Jets football, which is just always just like a comical thing to see sometimes. But yeah, man, that 1 o'clock window, that 15 minutes from like 3:55 to 4:10 was insane.
Yeah,
Absolutely insanity.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
I accidentally took it. I wasn't planning to take a nap. I usually don't miss the witching hour. I did this time, and I regret it because I woke up and all my friends in the group and like all of us were like, "What is going on? What just happened?" This I get it. My phone was blown up. I was like, "What did I miss?" So bad week to miss the witching hour, but I completely agree. When I went back and watched how some of those games ended, absolutely bananas. But Desmond, what was your kind of week 3 game of the week?
I mean, for me, I'm gonna be a homer again. It was definitely the Eagles. I couldn't believe it. When we went down 26-7, I was like, well, Sports Talk Radio in Philly is gonna be on fire this week. The way we're getting our asses kicked right now, and we just look like shit across the board. So like I completely expected that to like continue to be a blowout, and then to see us kind of like pivot. And it wasn't just being able to score on consecutive drives. It was the fact that the defense all of a sudden like flipped on a dime too and was able to hold in check Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams and Puka Nakua. And I was just like, okay, maybe we have something here. To pull that off in the end, that was crazy. Because after they went down, got in field goal range, I thought like, all right, we had a good comeback. I feel good about this, but we're still going to lose this game. Didn't lose the game. And I had 2 TVs on in the living room. So at the same time, on the other TV, I was watching the Browns make that quick comeback against the Packers. I want to give them a shout out because I was screaming like Browns upset the whole time while I was watching the Eagles on the other TV. So yeah, great witching hour all around. That was and again, you're so right. Total Jets way to lose. I was laughing at that one.
I think a lot of us are laughing, but I can't laugh that much because Giants fan. But yeah, a lot of fun games. My game of the week this week is what Desmond just mentioned. It's the Browns and the Packers. Just to see the Browns upset the Packers at home, I don't think any of us expected that, especially with Joe Flacco at quarterback. But Keyshawn Jenkins came out and balled out. That was just a fun game to watch, especially at the end. And the Browns just proved that they have one of the better defenses, and you can win with a old man at quarterback against any team on any given Sunday. So that's my game of the week. But with that, we're going to go over and do our pick'ems to end this episode. And then we got Nico doing a fun little segment after our pick'ems. So let me just get good old a DraftKings sponsor us. Just kidding, but maybe down the line we'll see. But we're going to go to our week 4 pick'ems rapid fire style. I'm just going to kind of go through the games taking place. Started off tomorrow, the Seahawks and the Cardinals. It is pretty close in the spread. Seahawks favored -1.5 on the road. Sorry, the over-under is 43.5. The money line is in favor of the Seahawks in 125. Robert, who do you have between the Seahawks and the Cardinals this week?
That line just screams trap game to me. So I'm gonna go Cardinals. I don't know. I feel like the entire world's going to be on the Seahawks at that line. So yeah. Vegas didn't get built by winners, so I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Like it. I'll be my pick. I'm just going to go actually as well Cardinals, and I'm going to go with them covering the spread at home. I think they're going to have I think Seattle. They've been playing well. Started off the season pretty well. Exceeded expectations for most of us. But that's a tough place to play. I'm just going to go with the Cardinals here as well. I'm going to take them and the points at +1.5. Nico, Mr. Gambling Man, who do you have between the Seahawks and the Cardinals?
Yeah, so believe it or not, on Sunday morning, this line opened up as Cardinals -2.5. The line going back to the direction of the Cardinals being an underdog now really does to me scream Seattle in this game. I really, really, truly think they are something special. I know right now the public and everyone is hammering Seattle, but I truly wouldn't be surprised if we see a double-digit victory out of Seattle tomorrow on the road.
Ooh, all right. You heard it first. And Desmond, who do you have between the Seahawks and the Cardinals?
I got the Seahawks. I think that they, division games are tricky, but I feel like they're just a better team. From what I've seen from them the first 3 weeks compared to what I've seen from the Cardinals the first 3 weeks, Cardinals are squeaking by in games that Kyler Murray, I'm going to save my tirade on him, but yeah, Seahawks.
All right, split decision here to start us off in our week 4 pick'em. Next one we're going to go to is a morning game, Sunday morning game. They're playing in Ireland. Is that right? Am I getting that right this week?
Yep, Dublin.
Dublin.
Between the Vikings and the Steelers. Vikings open up this one at -2.5 as the favorite. The over-under is 40, and they are -142 on the money line according to DraftKings. Nico, I'll go to you here first. Who do you have in the international game between the Vikings and the Steelers?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As of right now, I do have the Minnesota Vikings winning this game. Not too much in it. I'm just not sold on Pittsburgh Steelers just yet. It's just a lot of questions. I'm personally going to not bet this game, but if I making the pick, I would go with the Vikings. It is a stay away game for me. I know it's always fun to bet the 9:30 a.m. morning game, but it smells like an under, in my opinion, if anything.
Yeah, and it's also kind of weird because it's like you never know who's going to technically be like the home team, if you will, in those games.
Fair.
So that's why I do more player props when it comes to international. I have more fun doing player props than team picks. But Desmond, who do you have between the Vikings and the Steelers?
From what I hear, it sounds like the Steelers are the national team over there for Ireland, and that they have a lot of fans in Ireland.
Okay,
so I'm going to give the slight edge to the Steelers here. This feels like one of those games where all the money would be on the Vikings, given how they just thrashed the Bengals last week. But this is classic Steelers trap game. I think they're going to find a way to pull this one out. Close one.
I like it. And Robert, who do you have? Vikings Steelers.
I'll take the Steelers. Yeah, is JJ McCarthy playing this week, or is it Carson Wentz again?
Wentz.
It's looking more like he's going to be Wentz. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever it's a toss up like that, I tend to just take the side with the better quarterback, and that's obviously Aaron Rodgers. So I'll take Steelers.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are going to just go slow with JJ right now with that toe injury and not try to push it. So I believe we'll have another Wentz. I'm also going to go with the Steelers here. Again, they haven't really sold me, like Nico said as well. But for this one, I think they'll come out and maybe they'll show us who we thought they were going to be, especially in an international game. But with that, we're going to go over to my New York Football Giants playing the Chargers at MetLife. Chargers started off as 6-point favorites on the road. Desmond, who do you have in this matchup between the Chargers and the Giants?
This is my upset of the week. I got Giants here. The stat is still there, even though it's been fluctuating a little bit over the last
Yeah.
couple of years. But the West Coast team coming to the East Coast for the early game, East Coast teams have been winning 70% of these games. Chargers defense looks great, but they're not going to know how to prepare for a rookie. So I think that's going to give the advantage Giants a little bit. And I think the Giants are going to rally around this new quarterback because they know that their team is better than what they've been showing the last couple of weeks. I like the Chargers, to fall asleep in this game.
I respect that a ton. I'll go with my pick. I'm also going with the New York Football Giants as well, even though I just was acting like I'm not have faith. I'm going to go with the Giants. I'm going to take them with the points too. Even if they lose, I think it's going to be a close game. I think there's going to be that spark that we've been greatly missing, and that the Giants defense has looked good at times. Maybe it rattles Harbaugh, and I agree with Desmond here. The traveling and also making this decision to change quarterbacks midweek probably changed some schematic plans for those Chargers. So we'll see. But I'm also with Desmond agreeing here, which I rarely do with my football Giants. I'm going to go with them as episode week. I'm going with the New York Football Giants. But Robert, who do you have between the Chargers and the Giants?
I think Chargers win, but Giants cover. I think it's going to be like a Chargers 3-point, probably Chargers 3-point victory.
Knowing my luck, it'll be another 60-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Nico, who do you have between the Chargers and the Giants?
Completely agree with Robert. I see the Chargers winning by a field goal. Giants cover, but Chargers ultimately win the game.
And just so people out there, I know I didn't go over under. Over under is 43.5 in this one. Chargers the favorite minus 285 on the money line. So that's why I think going with the points here might be a little bit better move. All right, next game is the Eagles on the road against the Buccaneers. The spread is 3.5 over under 43.5. The Eagles are favored at minus 198. Desmond, are you going with your team here, or are you picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
You know what? I'm not capable of being able to pick against the Eagles, so I want to lay the bias out there. But really quickly, I'll just say this: the Buccaneers are like our arch rivals over the last 5 or 6 years. We play them every year. We lose to them every year. If I was not an Eagles fan, I would take the Bucs because we can't seem to beat this team. But I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm not capable of picking against them.
Agreed. I'm just going to go with my pick. I'm also going to go with the Eagles, especially coming back from down 19 against a Super Bowl contender in the Los Angeles Rams. I think they're going to carry that and the Buccaneers' perfect start to the season. And also player prop wise, I haven't seen anything yet for Emeka Ibuka, but I do like him over receiving yards, whatever that line might be. Nico, who do you have between the Eagles and the Bucs?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite plays of the week. I love the Eagles, and the reason that is, as Desmond mentioned, I think Sirianni and them are sick of it. Everyone's talking about can't beat the Buccaneers. Every year, the past 6 years, they always struggle against Tampa Bay. Yeah. Everyone's in his ear talking about, you look like crap. You're not looking great these first couple weeks. But I really honestly think people say it doesn't bother them. I think Sirianni's the type of guy where it eats at him at night. And I think Sirianni's going to have these guys dominate, and they're just going to come out like an animal possessed on Sunday.
Yeah, I completely agree. And especially in that game against the Rams, when everyone's like, can you start passing the ball? And they did, and their success. I think it's going to carry over this week against the Bucs. Maybe the Eagles are going to pass a little bit more. Robert, who do you have between the Bucs and the Eagles?
I actually like the Bucs. I think there might be a little bit of an emotional letdown from the Eagles this week after that huge victory last week. So going down to Tampa, this is a great game, to be honest. The 2-3-0 teams where we were talking about early. So I like the Buccaneers. That's going to be a fun game to watch, though. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great game that we're going to watch. Next game might not be a great game to watch. It could be, especially after last week. It's the Cleveland Browns at the Detroit Lions. Big spread here. Now, the biggest of the week. That's going to be our next game we talk about. But the Lions are open up at 10-point favorites at home. The over-under is 44.5, and the Lions are favored at minus 535 on the money line. Desmond, we'll go with you. Who do you have here between the Lions and the Browns?
I'll take the Lions with the points.
Ooh, okay.
I think that Cleveland showed us you last week that their offense really isn't that good. And I think them being away from home, they're not going to catch the Lions by surprise the way they caught the Packers by surprise. I think the Lions come out firing in this one.
Like it. Nico, who do you have?
I'm opposite. I actually have the Browns. I really even think the Browns can somehow possibly pull this one off. I obviously love the Browns plus 10, but I really wouldn't be surprised if they would win outright.
Like it. Robert?
I would be surprised. I have the I have the Lions by at least 14. I just don't think the Browns are going to be able to score enough to keep up with them, to be honest. I mean, at a certain point, Flacco got 10 points last week. Is he going to be able to do it again? Might get 20, you know?
Good point. Good
We'll
point.
see. Yeah, I'm going with the Lions here. You got most people know. Desmond knows. Talk to me in betting. I usually hate 10 plus over spreads. I just feel like I never do well on those. I
Right.
usually avoid those. This one I do like, but just seeing last week and how that Browns defense performed, I could see them slowing down the Lions. But then again, every single time we all think the Lions are going to get slowed down, they just like drop like 60 on a team.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the Lions to win this game. I don't know if I'm going to bet on the spread there, just because again, I usually with a 10-point spread, you just stay away. With that, like I said, that wasn't the biggest spread of the week because the next game we're talking about is. And this one moved since I've seen it. It is the Saints on the road against the Buffalo Bills. The spread is 15.5 on DraftKings. I saw it as high as 16.5 on some places. Over under is 47.5. The money line for the Bills is not even worth it. It is minus 1,450 for the Bills this week. I'm gonna go with the Bills. I'm gonna go against what I normally say. I'm going to go with them covering points. The Saints are so bad. I think Josh Allen is going to want to be on the bench by the end of the third quarter here, so he's just going to go bazooka on these New Orleans Saints. So I'm going with the Bills and taking the spread here, even though I go against my better judgment. Robert, who do you have here between the Saints and the Bills?
I mean, I can't even like make an argument for the Saints in any capacity. So I same thing. I hate laying 15 points, but that game could be 14-0 with 7 minutes left in the first quarter. So like that spread might just get wiped out instantly, you know? Give me the Bills.
Nico, who do you have between the Saints and the Bills?
And I know I went on my little Saints rant earlier. I have a rule of thumb though: if a team is getting more than 2 touchdowns, you take them with the points. I just in the NFL, but I don't think there's a world where the Saints win this game. And like Robert just mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if it's halftime and it's 31-0. And I don't know if Trubisky's the backup still, but someone's warming up ready to come in on the sidelines.
Yeah. I think Josh Allen wants a rest, which, might as well just do it against a team like the Saints. We all will be like, yeah, that's fine. You can take a bench. You can ride the bench for a little while. Desmond, who do you have between the Saints and the Bills?
This screams a game that'll be on like Scott Van Pelt's bad beats,
It
come
really does.
come Monday, right? Because I feel like it's probably just like you said. I think Bills go up like 31-0. They pull the starters in the third quarter, and then the Saints backdoor cover at the end. So playing against their twos. So give me the Saints to cover, but Bills win.
I like it. Yeah, if we're all on bad beats, I think we're all going to laugh about it in our group chat. Next game, spreads kind of fluctuating just based on injuries here, but it is the Commanders at the Falcons. Spread starts right now at -1.5 in favor of the Commanders. I know Daniels is kind of up and down depending on if he's going to play or not, so that's why I said the spread moves. Over under is 45.5, and the Commanders are the favorites here at -125. Again, who do you guys have between the Commanders and Falcons? Nico, I'll start with you here.
Yeah, I'm going Atlanta for one simple reason, and one simple reason only is this is Penix's last chance, in my opinion. If he lays another egg on Sunday, what do you do? Like you have to start Kirk Cousins. I think they have to do everything in their power to win this game, and I really going to go with the Falcons.
I like it. Desmond, who do you have?
You know what? I don't think the Falcons are as bad as they looked last week, and the Commanders not having Jaden Daniels again for another week makes me feel like the Falcons can probably like find a way to pull this off. Close game, Falcons win.
Like it, Robert?
Yeah, I think Falcons probably win this one, and it's one of those games where we're all like, oh, okay, maybe the Falcons are good, and then they just get smoked 2 weeks later against the Bills, and everyone's like, oh yeah, they're not good.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons too here. I think Penix has hopefully just had a really, really rough week, and I know he hasn't had a great start to the season, but the play like he did against Carolina, my God, that was atrocious. I think he bounces back with a game that this team needs. I'm going to go with the Falcons, and I think Penix is going to have a decent performance here because again, if he has another performance, I agree with Nico. Lamar Bell's going. What are the Falcons going to do? With that, we're going to go with another game that might be a dud, might be decent. We were talking about this team earlier. It is the Titans on the road against the Houston Texans. Spread is starting off at -7 in favor of the Texans. Over under 38.5, so low scoring over under there. -395 in favor of the Texans. Robert, we'll go with you. Who do you have here between the Titans and Texans?
I think Texans win, but Titans probably cover. I know the Titans haven't looked good at all, but I actually still really like Cam Ward. I mean, he's kind of in a similar situation as CJ Stroud, where he just has no offensive line, so there's just nothing he can really do. And I just don't see how I just don't think the Texans are going to score enough to cover 7, honestly.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm gonna go with the Texans winning this game, but again, that cover, I don't know. I just don't. Again, both teams look great, but the Texans to me, I just have not impressed. And Cam Ward has shown flashes, so I just don't think the Texans have the offense in them to cover. I have them winning, but not getting the points there of -7. Nico, who do you have?
I think it's a must win for the Texans, so I'm really going with the Texans to win. I don't really have a pick on the spread, like you guys both mentioned. 7 is a tough line. I can see it going either way, but I love the under. As Robert mentioned, I really don't think the Texans score a lot, but I do think they win. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a fair 12-9 victory or something.
Yeah, something gross like that. Desmond, who do you have between the Titans and Texans?
Good news for the Titans. They've scored more points each and every week so far. Bad news for the Titans. Their defense has given up more points each and every week so far. So I actually think the Texans might cover here, strangely enough. Give me the Texans at home.
I like it. With that, we're going to move to another one. Kind of an interesting game here between the Panthers and the Patriots. Patriots should have won last week. They didn't. But they are starting off as -5.5 favorites at home. Over is 42.5. They are on the money line at -225. I'll start here with this one. I'm going to go the Patriots. I think they should have had that game against the Steelers, but like Robert said, that was just like a gross, sloppy game. The multiple fumbles at the end there killed them. They should have pretty much wiped the floor with the Steelers. I thought they were a better team, and just those mistakes cost them. And bad teams, when that happens, it could roll up the speed. But I think Vrabel has a button up against his Panthers team. I'm going to have them winning, and I'm giving them the points. I think they're going to beat down on the Panthers. I think they're not going to have 2 sloppy weeks, especially with Vrabel. If they do, a lot of people will be like, what the hell is going on in New England? But Robert, you're the Patriots fan. Who do you have in this one between the Panthers and the Patriots?
Yeah, it's tough because I agree with you where we definitely looked like the better team against the Steelers, but it's also you can't turn the ball over 5 times and say you should have won, because it's just like you turn when you turn it over like twice, I think your odds of winning are like less than 20% or something. But oh man, this is gonna suck if the Panthers win after all the shit I talked about Bryce Young. Give me the Pats. Yeah, give me the Pats. I'm so confident.
Very confident. Robert, Nico, who do you have between the Panthers and Patriots?
Is it me? My thing cut out. I'm sorry. Patriots. I really think this is going to be a line where a lot of people see and be like, oh, 5.5, 6. Like, Panthers just look good. Like, that's weird, and people are going to bet the Panthers. But I think the Patriots are a really good team, and I think the Patriots beat the brakes off them. Second fair play of the week.
Yeah, agreed. I think the Panthers looked great because Michael Penix was giving that offense the best ball position ever with some of the throws and the pick sixes. So. Don't drink the Kool-Aid on the Panthers, guys. They're still pretty bad. So, that's why I like the Patriots stand the spread there. Desmond, who do you have in this matchup?
I slightly disagree with Nico from earlier. I actually think that the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL, and I'm not dissuaded by the 30-0 victory that I saw last week. I expect them to go up to New England and come away with another loss, double-digit loss actually. Patriots by at least 10.
I like it. Then we're going to the 4:00 games here, and this 4:00 window this week is pretty interesting. But we're going to start off here with the Colts on the road against the Rams. Danny Dimes, or Indiana Jones, I guess is his new nickname. Indiana Jones against Matthew Stafford on the road. Colts are actually the underdogs here. Rams are favored -3.5. The over/under is 49.5, and the Rams are on the money line at -192. Again, this is according to DraftKings. I'm going to go here first. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think they just, after that tough loss against the Eagles, I think they're just going to bounce back at home. It's been a good run, Daniel, but you got to lose at some point. You can keep it a good play. I'm happy for you, but again, you caused me headaches for a bunch of years. But this week, I'm going to have the Rams. I think the Colts just take their first loss of the season. Robert, I'll go with you. Who do you have here between the Colts and the Rams?
I hadn't heard the Indiana Jones nickname, but honestly, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
kind of makes me want to take the Colts now, but the Rams are going to win. Rams are going to win. I think, like I said earlier, I think McVay is really one of the best coaches in the league, and I feel like he's going to have them rebound pretty well. You know, I think he's going to do a good job of showing them how they were better than the Eagles in the first half, and we were better than the Super Bowl champs, and then we kind of beat ourselves. So I think the wheels might fall off for Danny Dimes or Indiana Jones this week.
We'll see. But it should be a fun game. Hopefully it's a fun game. That's all we ask for in the NFL as, we watch these games. Nico, who do you have here between the Colts and the Rams?
First of all, I have the over. I want to say that. I expected a shootout in this game. I think it's going to be very fun. But I do like the Rams to ultimately win the game, bounce back after the game last week in Philadelphia. But I don't think it's going to be to the lack of Danny Dimes. I think he's going to stay hot. Jonathan Taylor's going to stay hot. And it's going to be a high-scoring game in Los Angeles.
And Jonathan Taylor, props to him, his start of the year. He's looking like Offensive Player of the Year at the moment. So let's see if he continue it against the Rams, because touchdown or one of his runs last week was absolutely insane. Desmond,
Crazy.
Who do you have between the Colts and the Rams?
I'm going to take the Colts. I think that, Shane Steichen's been calling a great offensive game plan the first 3 weeks for Danny. I mean, I think he knows like how to get the most out of him. And I do think the Rams are going to have a bit of a hangover. I mean, a lot of the problems they had this past week was Matthew Stafford making terrible decisions. So, maybe it's just a little bit in his head right now.
I don't hate it at all, but again, me being a Georgia Bulldog fan, I think Stafford is fantastic. No, I'm just kidding. But, we'll see. Moving on, because there's a lot of games. We're going to go here. This could be an interesting one. Jags on the road at the 49ers. The 49ers start off at -3.5 here. Over-under is 47.5. And the 49ers favorite at -185. I'll start off with this one. This one's tough because, again, I don't know which version of Trevor Lawrence is going to show up, but I think I'm going to go with the 49ers here. I'm going to give them with the points, too. I think they're such a resilient team that hopefully, I know Bosa's a huge loss, but they just proven time and time again that the next man stands up. And against the Jaguar team that, again, has just been very, 1 week great, 1 week not. Who knows shows up. So I'm going to go 49ers here, especially at home. I'm going to get them with the points. But Robert, I'll go with you. Who do you have here between the Jags and the 49ers?
Honestly, I like the Jags, and it's less to do with the Jags and more so, obviously, Brock Purdy, he apparently practiced Wednesday, but they're still taking it slow with him. And just looking at it now, apparently Mac Jones is also questionable with a knee injury. So who knows who's playing quarterback for them this week? I guess give me the Jags, and even if one of them play, they're going to be banged up. So I like the Jags in this one.
Nico, who do you have between the Jags and 49ers?
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be weird to see what version of Trevor Lawrence you're going to get of the Jaguars. So that way I'm going with San Francisco 49ers. It's just it's an easier pick for me just because I think they're the more consistent team. But I am curious to see what's going to happen and who's going to be at quarterback on Sunday.
I like it. Desmond, who do you have?
49ers I think it's going to catch up to them. They got too many injuries. This is more of a pick about like what the 49ers don't have than what the Jaguars do have. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars because I think they just have they just have more talent on the field right now.
Like it. With that, we probably got one of the most exciting games of the week. We got the Rams on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. Baltimore, I thought the spread was going to be a little bit higher, but Baltimore starting off at the favorite, -2.5, over under 48.5. And the Ravens are the favorite at -148. Nico, I'll go with you here. Who do you have in the Ravens Chiefs game?
I have the Ravens. I think the Ravens might be the best 1-2 team ever in the history of the NFL. But I think they are going to absolutely dominate Kansas City. I think the era in Kansas City is over. Similar situation like the Eagles are in. Like everyone's sick and tired of, you can't beat the Chiefs, you can't beat the Chiefs. Harbaugh and Lamar are going to come out and they're going to dominate that game.
Desmond, who do you have in this matchup?
I also have the Ravens. I think that the games they've lost have come down right to the end, and I think the Ravens defense has a lot to prove. And thankfully, they're up against Chiefs offense that isn't that good right now. So, yeah, give me the Ravens in this one.
Robert, who do you have in this matchup?
Ravens as well. I think, like I said earlier, talking about the Chiefs-Giants game, I came more away not impressed by the Chiefs than the Giants. So, yeah, give me the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Ravens here, and exactly for what you said, Robert. Especially me witnessing that team, the Chiefs team live, they just look flat, and especially with the Ravens being 1-2, backs this wall in a must-win kind of situation. I think they're going to show up, and I think they're going to ball out. So I'm going to go with the Ravens, and I think it's an easy pick on the spread too. I think they could potentially beat down on this Kansas City Chiefs team. With that, we're going to move over to the Bears and at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are favored -1.5, so Vegas is picking a close game there. Over under 47.5, and the Raiders are -115, but the Bears and money line are -105. I'll start with this one. I'm going to go with the Bears here. I know a lot of people are looking at the Raiders, and I'm sorry, the other Alex, I'm not picking his team. But I liked what I saw from Caleb Williams, and I know, again, that's against that Cowboys defense, but he just looked like a different quarterback. I hope that got his confidence up, and I think he's going to continue that against this Raiders team. So give me the Bears and the points there. Robert, I'll go with you. Who do you have between the Bears and the Raiders?
I have the Bears as well. Similar idea of thought with you, where I thought Caleb Williams looked good, and I think he might be starting to grasp that Ben Johnson offense a little bit better now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like them getting incrementally better week by week, just with him understanding that offense a little better.
Nico, who do you have?
I have the Raiders. The Bears being ranked the 27th in defensive rush yards allowed this year. I really think this is going to be Genty's time to shine, and I really think the Raiders win this game.
Okay, Desmond.
I thought that the Cowboys defense is like a bottom five defense and the Bears feasted on them. I think that the Raiders have a great home field advantage and these two teams are kind of similar in talent. So I'm going to go with the Raiders here to kind of get a close one at home.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be definitely an energy matchup for sure. But with that, another interesting matchup for Sunday Night Football. We have the Packers on the road at the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons making his return to Dallas. CeeDee Lamb out for this game. So big loss there for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go with the Packers and the points. That Cowboys defense is atrocious, and I think Micah Parsons is going to sack Dak at least twice. And look up at Jerry, maybe flip him off and get fined, or just tell him you shouldn't have effing traded me. Either or, I think Micah Parsons is going to prove it. I know a lot of people say that when they come back, oh, they're not going to do it, but I think Micah Parsons is going to be the guy to finally, show his former team what's up. Robert, who do you have between the Packers and the Cowboys?
I got the Packers, and I'm sure all the Packers players would deny it, but might have been a bit of a look-ahead game scenario against the Browns last week where they were like, oh, we're playing the Browns, we'll probably win. But we got the Cowboys, and Micah's going to go crazy on them. So I still think the Packers are a Super Bowl contender. And with that, especially with CD, who knows, I think Packers win pretty easily.
Nico.
I do think the Packers do end up winning the game itself, but I think it's going to be closer. I think it's a personal game to Jerry Jones, and he wants everything. He's going to be firing up the boys all week. So give me the Packers with a late field goal to win in this game.
Desmond, who do you have?
Packers and cover. I think the loss of CeeDee Lamb is huge. Not just him being on the field, but the fact that he gets take so much attention away from everyone else on the field. And George Pickens is just a problem. Like just internally, he just causes more problems than I think he solves. So I think the Cowboys offense will take a step back this week. Packers are going to explode. They're going to bounce back. They're embarrassed from what happened from losing to the Browns. So.
Yeah, completely agree there. Pickens is just a hothead. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets flagged at some point during that game. And then we'll go to Monday night. Final two games of the week. Kind of two dud Monday night football games, but we went around the whole week, so we got to still talk about them. We got the Jets on the road at the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are shockingly the favorite here at -2.5. Over under is 45.5. The money line is 155. I'll start off with this one. I'm going to go with the Jets. They get their first win in their new coach's era. And I'll give them other points too. I just think the Dolphins are an absolute mess. And I know their offense at times is great, but Tua has made some awful decisions lately. And I think that Jets team has come so close in every single game this week, and this season, I should say. I think they're finally going to get their win. So I'm going to go with the Jets and the points. Nico, I'll start with you. Who do you have between the Jets and the Dolphins?
I'm going with the Dolphins just because this is McDaniel's last chance. McDaniel. McDaniel has to come out and just win this football game. So I think he's in the lab all week doing everything in his power, and I really think they're going to come out and win this game. It's going to be sloppy either way, but they're going to find the way to win.
Desmond.
Justin Fields returning from a concussion. I like the Jets here, and I like the trade Tyreek Hill back to the Chiefs chatter to start a week from today.
Yeah. We've been floating it here on the Yards After the Catch podcast that Tyreek go back home. Oh, Robert, who do you have in this one?
What a gross game. Might have to hold me at gunpoint to watch this, honestly, but I don't know. Give me the Dolphins, I guess. It's McDaniels, if he loses, he's fired. So give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, this is going to be a brutal one. This week, this Monday night, this might be a split screen viewing, guys.
Yeah, right.
The next one, like I said, Bengals at Denver. Denver starts off here at -7.5. The over-under is 44.5. Denver is favorite, pretty big here on the money line at -380. I'll kick us off. I'm going to go Denver winning this game. I just don't know if they're going to get the points and cover. I like Bo Nix, but he's been up and down this season. Maybe this is the defense he makes it right, but he hasn't looked like the Bo Nix that we saw in his first year. I'm going to have them win. The Broncos win this game, but I don't know about the points. That's really my point here. Robert, I'll go here. Bengals, Broncos, again, another tough one for viewership.
Yeah, I like the Broncos in this. I think the Bengals are probably going to go on a little bit of a losing streak here. They got the Broncos this week, then the Lions, then the Packers, then the Steelers.
Jesus.
So I think by the time Burrow gets back, they might be looking at a whole different scenario than what they might have thought.
Yeah, and real quick, I forgot to bring it up. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants trade. If like Russ said he's not going to retire. I meant to bring this earlier. He says he's not going to retire. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals might come calling for Russ at some point because they just hit the panic button on quarterback. So keep an eye out for that in the event that's skidding for the Bengals because it's not looking pretty right now. Nico, who do you have in this matchup?
Yeah, I have the Broncos. I just really don't see a world where the Bengals can even compete in this game. I think they could possibly cover if they limit to maybe just one turnover, but they looked pitiful against the Vikings on Sunday, so give me Denver.
Yeah, they made Carson Wentz look like he was back in MVP form. Yeah, brutal. Desmond, who do you have in this one?
You know what? It has to be the Broncos. I can't see how they could go from getting humiliated by Carson Wentz to actually going into Denver and beating that team, who still has a good defense. So yeah, the Bengals looked uninterested last week, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing for me is that team feels like they've already given up this season. So yeah, Broncos.
Yeah, and Chase Brown also point for Bengals, especially for fantasy purposes, has looked an absolute bust this year, which hurts my dynasty league and a couple other leagues where I believed in him. Maybe he turns around and gets that Broncos team, but again, that defense is decent, but who knows? So that's our week 4 pickup. But before we wrap up this edition of Yards After the Catch, we got our Mr. Gambling Man here. We got Nico, and we talked pre-show. Nico, you want to have a bet of the week or your private bet. So I'm going to let you take the floor here. And we're going to track this. So you might become our IG superstar because I might joke with you the rest of the way if all of your picks are wrong. But we'll see. Nico, what's your player prop of the week?
So I do have like 5 for you. I'll go rapid fire real quick, but I will say start with my play of the week. Right now, it's Malik Neighbors over 61.5 receiving yards. That might switch to receptions. And my only reason is with a rookie quarterback, I think they're going to get the ball off quick, throw a lot of screen passes, throw a lot of slants, get Malik Neighbors involved. Harbaugh with a rookie quarterback is going to blitz them a lot. So I think the Giants are going to be prepared for that. And Malik Neighbors receptions is probably going to be the pick. Piggyback off that, I also like Dart over rush attempts. The line's not out yet. I can see this being anywhere around 3.5 to 4.5. I really like the over on this. A lot of times rookie quarterbacks get a little happy feet, so I wouldn't be surprised if he takes off and runs a few times more than he should this week. My next prop, going back into it, is anytime touchdown parlay, same game. Jonathan Taylor and Kyron Williams. I really think that Rams game versus the Colts is going to be an absolute shootout. I would also sprinkle both of them to score 2 touchdowns. It's going to be probably about plus 4,000 to get yourself a really nice payday there. Another one that I love, I mentioned it, is Genty. I really think this is going to be a coming out party for Genty. Right now they have his over under rushing at 66.5. I think he goes well over this number. Possibly even gets his first 100. I don't believe he got 100 yards week 1, right?
No.
Did he? Yeah, so I think he'll possibly get his first 100-yard rushing game. And I think that line is just way too low. And I would also separately do that with a Genti anytime touchdown. I really do think he does score a touchdown in this game. And to wrap it all off, one of my favorite props is Judkins over 57.5 rush yards. I do think Judkins is going to be one of those players come 6-7 weeks from now where we're going to be considering him a top 7 running back in football. Nobody knows it just yet, but this kid is special, and these lines are just way too low right now. So buy them early, get them now, and 3-4 weeks from now, his over-under is going to be about 75.5, in my opinion.
Yeah, you heard it here first. We follow Nico again. We might mess with Nico because I like
that's fair. I love it.
Reels. As you guys saw in our first IG reel, I was messing with everyone. We'll see. Nico is great. You guys make money. If not, you guys will, go after Nico. But it is what it is. Like all your picks, Nico, by the way. And again, just everyone to wrap up this. Thanks everyone for listening. It's been a fun week in the NFL. I know for my Giants, it's been a tough start of the season, but other than that, it's been fun football. It will continue the next week. And I just want to thank Rob, Nico, Desmond. Thank you guys for joining me for this season of Yards After the Catch. Appreciate you guys' time. Hope you guys had fun. And if you guys are listening, please go over to our YouTube. And we have a TikTok now and an IG. Please follow everywhere. Like and subscribe everywhere. We're going to have more content coming out. And we really enjoy all of you guys' time. So really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of Yards After the Catch. Later, everyone.